Justice Thomas criticizes Hawaii's gun permit laws after SCOTUS denial. Justice Clarence Thomas sharply criticized Hawaii's restrictive gun permit laws after the U.S. Supreme Court decided not to take up the case of Christopher Wilson, who had been arrested in 2017 for carrying a loaded gun without a license. Wilson had trespassed on a private property during a hike, which led to his arrest. This case challenged Hawaii's May-issue licensing system, where local police chiefs hold significant discretion in deciding whether individuals can carry firearms either openly or concealed. In practice, this system was known for its extreme restrictions, with Hawaii police issuing 0 concealed carry licenses in 2017. Wilson was charged with misdemeanor trespassing and firearm offenses, but he fought back, arguing that Hawaii's stringent laws violated his Second Amendment rights. His case raised questions about whether the state's tight regulations on carrying guns in public were consistent with the landmark Bruen decision of 2022, in which the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that New York's restrictive concealed carry laws were unconstitutional. In the wake of that decision, lower courts were expected to reconsider similar gun laws across the country, and Wilson's case presented a critical opportunity to further clarify the application of the Second Amendment. Justice Thomas, who has long been a proponent of originalist interpretations of the Constitution, agreed with the logic of the Circuit Court that sided with Wilson. He pointed out that Hawaii's regulations, which required applicants to demonstrate exceptional cases or special urgency to be eligible for a permit, mirrored those of New York, which the Supreme Court had struck down in Bruen. Thomas emphasized that these kinds of restrictions were problematic and unconstitutional, as they effectively made it nearly impossible for most law-abiding citizens to obtain a permit to carry a firearm. However, despite this endorsement of the logic behind Wilson's challenge, the Supreme Court ultimately decided not to hear the case. The Hawaii Supreme Court had rejected Wilson's appeal, ruling that he could not challenge the state's licensing system because he had never formally applied for a permit. The court argued that because Wilson did not follow the proper procedures for obtaining a license, he had no standing to contest the laws. In addition, the court insisted that Hawaii's strict gun laws did not violate the Second Amendment because Wilson's case did not directly challenge the core issue of gun licensing. The Hawaii Supreme Court also expressed concerns about the originalist view of the Second Amendment, which holds that the right to bear arms extends beyond state-imposed limitations. It argued that the right to carry firearms must be balanced with the state's legitimate interests in public safety and reducing gun violence. In a unique twist, the court invoked Hawaii's cultural ethos, a spirit of aloha, arguing that it should guide the state's gun laws rather than a federally mandated right to carry weapons in public. Justice Thomas found this reasoning troubling. He argued that the federal constitutional right to carry firearms in public must be protected against state-level infringements, no matter the local cultural arguments or claims of public safety. We should make clear that Americans are always free to invoke the Second Amendment as a defense against unconstitutional firearms licensing schemes, he wrote. He also warned that allowing states to impose restrictive and unconstitutional laws without consequence could set a dangerous precedent for disregarding federal constitutional protections. Thomas further suggested that Wilson or another future litigant might be able to present the issue in a way that would bring it back before the court, and emphasized that the case highlighted an important recurring issue of gun rights. Justice Samuel Alito, who also shares Thomas's conservative interpretation of the Constitution, joined in Thomas's statement. This development underscores the growing tension between state-level gun regulations and federal constitutional protections under the Second Amendment, a tension that will likely continue to play out in future cases. While gun-related deaths in Hawaii are relatively low, -38 in 2017, Thomas and Alito's statements suggest they believe the broader constitutional issues raised by such restrictive laws deserve greater judicial scrutiny.